The sun bathed the forest in golden light, as disciples gathered around Buddha under the spreading branches of a Bodhi tree. A soft breeze whispered through the leaves, carrying with it the scent of earth and blooming flowers. "Master, my thoughts torment me," Ananda said, his voice trembling with fear that seemed boundless. "Like the endless ocean, I am consumed by fears of what the future might hold," Ananda continued, his eyes searching for solace in Buddha's gaze. Buddha gently gestured for Ananda to sit beside him, his voice a soothing balm in a turbulent mind. "Ananda, tell me, where does your fear arise?" Buddha asked softly, his presence grounding the disciples' racing thoughts. "My fear comes from uncertainty," Ananda replied, his words spilling out like water from a cracked vessel. "I fear famine, sickness, and the chaos of war that lies beyond the horizon of our sight," he added. Buddha listened intently, his presence a grounding force. And after a moment, he spoke, "Purpose is not a thing to be grasped. It is a light to be uncovered within." The disciples leaned closer, their breaths synchronized with the stillness of the forest around them. The leaf, like life, does not fret over the winds that carry it, nor the ground that catches it. Our fear comes from grasping at control over things that are beyond our reach, Buddha said. What we fear about the future often reflects our attachment to the past and what we wish to protect. Ananda stared at the leaf as Buddha placed it gently onto the flowing stream nearby, where it floated serenely. Anand looked up, his expression betraying a glimmer of understanding. Yet questions lingered. "But Master," Anand asked hesitantly, "how do I know the direction my spirit must flow? What if I falter and fail?" Buddha's gaze met Anand's with profound compassion, his voice resonant like the deep hum of the earth. "The spirit's direction is guided by truth, and truth arises from clarity of mind and purity of heart." Buddha's voice carried the weight of wisdom that transcended the urgency of Ananda's fears, grounding him in the present. "But, Master, how can I abandon these thoughts? They seem to linger and multiply, feeding on my every moment." Buddha paused, his gaze unwavering, and lifted his finger towards the skies where clouds drifted in silent harmony. "Do you see these clouds, Ananda? They may darken the day, yet they pass. Like all things impermanent, the sky does not hold onto the clouds. It accepts their presence, knowing they will drift away in time. We, too, must learn to let go of fear, of uncertainty, and anchor ourselves in the reality of the present." "Master," a young disciple interjected, his tone ripe with curiosity, "how do we discern between illusions and true purpose?" Buddha's serene expression did not waver as he replied, "By observing life as it is, and not as we desire it to be." The disciples nodded, their faces reflecting the resonance of these teachings. "Preparation is not the same as worry," Buddha said, his voice steady and clear, like the call of a temple bell. "To prepare is to act with clarity and presence, addressing what you can control without dwelling on what you cannot. Worry, on the other hand, drowns the mind in uncertainty, pulling you away from the moment where life truly exists." Ananda nodded slowly, his thoughts beginning to unravel, their grip loosening under Buddha's patient guidance. "Master, I understand your wisdom, but how can I train my mind to release these fears that cling so tightly?" Buddha reached for a lotus flower floating in the stream, its petals glistening with morning dew, and held it aloft. "Behold the lotus," Buddha said, turning the flower so Ananda could observe its delicate beauty amidst its muddy origins. "The lotus does not lament the mud nor fear the skies above. It grows where it is, unfolding in serenity." It teaches us a profound truth. Ananda, only in the present can we find peace. For the past is gone and the future uncertain. To release fear, we must release attachment to what has been and what might be. Focusing only on what is, Buddha then placed the lotus back upon the water, watching it drift calmly, its movement unhurried and harmonious. Ananda felt the weight of his fears begin to lift, replaced by a sense of quiet resolve and newfound clarity. Master, your teachings have illuminated my path, Ananda said, his voice carrying gratitude as he bowed before Buddha. Anand nodded slowly, his heart beginning to grasp the profound simplicity of Buddha's guidance. You see, Anand, Buddha said, clarity is not achieved by forcing the mind, but by allowing it to settle naturally. Remember, Ananda, fear is but a shadow, cast by the light of our own mind, Buddha said, his voice radiant. To let go of the shadow, we must first embrace the light, grounding ourselves in mindfulness and trust in life's course. Ananda rose, his heart lighter, his mind clearer, his steps steadier as he turned to follow the path of serenity. Beneath the Bodhi tree, Buddha continued to meditate, his presence a silent guide to those seeking peace in life's storms. Another day, beneath the vast expanse of the heavens, Buddha gathered his disciples under the shade of a large banyan tree. The cool breeze rustled through the leaves, carrying the faint scent of jasmine, as the disciples settled into attentive silence. Among them sat Ananda, now more centered, but eager to learn further lessons to anchor his restless heart. Buddha stood, holding a single arrow in his hand, its shaft smooth and its tip glinting sharply in the sunlight. This arrow, Buddha began, his voice calm and steady, symbolizes your actions, your choices, and your intentions in life. He held the arrow high, his gaze sweeping across the assembly, and then planted it firmly into the ground before him. As we act, we release the arrow of intention into the world, aiming toward the future, Buddha said, his tone deliberate. However, he continued, an archer cannot control the path of the wind, the rain, or the shifts of the target. Tell me, my disciples, what then can the archer control? Buddha asked, his gaze resting expectantly on their thoughtful faces. After a moment of silence, Ananda spoke, the archer can control the steadiness of his hand and the release of his grip. Buddha smiled and nodded, his approval evident. Exactly, Ananda, the archer focuses on what lies within his immediate power to influence. If the archer obsesses over the elements beyond his control, his aim falters, his focus scatters, and his effort diminishes. Our life is no different. My disciples, we, too, release arrows of intent but cannot foresee every obstacle in their path. Another disciple raised his hand and asked, Master, what if the arrow misses its mark? Does the archer not feel failure? Buddha turned to him, his voice kind and filled with understanding. Failure lies only in ceasing to aim with mindfulness and effort. If the archer gives his best, then even a missed mark becomes a lesson, a step toward wisdom and growth. Buddha picked up the arrow again, showing it to the disciples. In every act, remember to release with focus, not with fear. The burden of worry over outcomes weighs heavy on the heart, distracting us from the present task that demands our attention. He placed the arrow back down and motioned towards a group of tall bamboo trees swaying gently in the breeze. Do you see these bamboo trees, bending and swaying yet unbroken by the wind that passes through them? Buddha asked. The disciples nodded, their eyes fixed on the rhythmic dance of the bamboo, which moved harmoniously with the unseen wind. The bamboo does not resist the wind, nor does it try to predict its next direction or force, Buddha explained. Instead, it adapts, responds, and remains rooted in its strength, allowing the moment to guide its natural flow. If we lived like the bamboo, our minds would sway with the winds of life without breaking under the strain of worry. Ananda listened intently, his understanding deepening, as he felt the wisdom resonate with his own reflections on earlier lessons. But Master, Ananda spoke, How does one distinguish between what can be influenced and what must simply be accepted? Buddha glanced at the sky, his eyes tracing the flight of a bird soaring gracefully above, its wings steady yet unhurried. Consider the bird in flight. Ananda, Buddha replied. It flaps its wings to stay aloft, but does not fight the wind. It relies on its power and focus to navigate, yet it trusts the wind to carry it where it must go. In the same way, discernment arises when you recognize your part to play while letting go of attachment to the uncontrollable. Buddha turned back to the assembly, his expression serene and filled with compassion. Worry clouds discernment like a storm darkens the sky, but clarity, born of mindfulness, illuminates the path, showing us where our influence ends and life's flow continues its course. Master, Anand asked, how do we cultivate this stillness when the mind is restless and the heart is heavy with seeking? Buddha's gaze softened, his voice imbued with warmth and reassurance. Through presence, Anand, and through trust in the unfolding of life's mysterious design. The disciples nodded, their hearts seeking to embody the essence of these profound words in their own lives. Success and failure are but waves on the vast ocean of life, rising and falling, impermanent and ever-changing, Buddha concluded, as the sun began its descent, casting long shadows across the gathering. Buddha held out both his hands, palms open. Imagine your life as this open palm, he said, holding nothing tightly, letting what comes rest and what goes depart. When we live with such openness, fear no longer binds us, and our arrows of intention fly true, Buddha taught. The disciples reflected on his words, their hearts absorbing the lesson, their fears slowly unraveling like threads loosened from a tapestry. Buddha then gestured for the disciples to rise, leading them toward a nearby hill where the horizon stretched endlessly before them. Anand bowed his head in gratitude, his voice steady as he said, Master, I will strive to surrender and trust, though the path still feels unclear. Buddha placed a hand on Anand's shoulder, his touch grounding and compassionate. The path becomes clear not through force, but through gentle perseverance and open-hearted exploration. As the disciples gazed outward, a gentle silence fell, broken only by the rustling of leaves and the distant songs of birds. Ananda felt a profound sense of freedom, his heart no longer burdened by the weight of fears that had once consumed him. Buddha turned, his eyes filled with quiet joy. Let go of what you cannot hold, and hold fast to what truly matters. And so, as another day slipped into night, the teachings of Buddha illuminated their path, guiding them towards harmony and peace. Anand lifted his gaze, his eyes reflecting a newfound determination, his spirit ready to embrace the unfolding journey. Master, he said, his voice steady, I will walk the path with trust and openness, allowing it to reveal itself in time. The soft hum of nature enveloped the gathering as the disciples waited, their attention drawn to the Master's presence. Buddha bent slightly and plucked a single lotus flower, its petals glistening with morning dew, vibrant against the green. This flower, Buddha said, holding the lotus aloft, teaches us a profound truth about life. Rooted in mindfulness and presence, the disciples leaned closer, their anticipation palpable, as Buddha's voice resonated like the gentle ripples of the pond. The lotus grows in muddy waters, yet it rises pure and unblemished, drawing strength from its surroundings, Buddha explained. It neither laments the mud below nor fears the skies above. It simply exists in harmony with its circumstances. Tell me, my disciples, why do you think the lotus chooses to bloom in the present moment? Buddha asked. Ananda replied, Master, the lotus cannot change the mud nor predict the skies, so it embraces the present fully. Buddha smiled and nodded, his approval flowing like a silent wave through the assembly. Exactly, Ananda, You understand deeply. The lotus reminds us that the present is the only reality. Vibrant and alive, where life truly unfolds, Buddha said. He placed the lotus gently back into the water, watching it float calmly, untouched by worry or doubt. Ananda, Buddha addressed the disciple directly. Have you reflected on your fears since we last spoke beneath the Bodhi tree? Ananda replied, his voice steady but thoughtful. Master, I have learned to anchor myself in the present, yet moments of worry still arise. Buddha's gaze softened with understanding, his voice like the soothing breeze. It is natural, Ananda, for the mind to wander, but remember, to dwell on fear is to lose sight of the beauty and opportunity within the moment. Buddha continued. We are like travelers carrying burdens of unnecessary weight, worrying about paths not yet revealed. Buddha said compassionately. He pointed to the lotus flowers. Again, their stillness reflecting the teachings that transcended the restless human heart. The lotus does not grasp at the past nor cling to the future. It unfolds exactly where it is, Buddha explained. It teaches us that freedom comes not from avoiding mud, but from rising above it without attachment or aversion, Buddha added. Ananda nodded slowly, his heart absorbing the wisdom like the earth absorbing rain, nourishing his desire for clarity. Master, how can one train the mind to stay focused amidst the distractions of life and the fears of uncertainty? Buddha knelt by the pond, dipping his hand into the water, letting droplets cascade back onto the surface. Observe this water, Ananda, Buddha said, his gesture deliberate. It reflects the sky when still, but blurs it when disturbed. The mind is the same. When agitated by fear, it cannot reflect truth or clarity, Buddha said, his voice steady. To calm the mind, you must practice mindfulness, focusing gently on the breath, anchoring yourself to the moment. Like the lotus unfolds slowly, so must your practice, patient, persistent, accepting each step without rushing or resistance, Buddha instructed. The disciples nodded in agreement, their understanding deepening as they considered Buddha's metaphor, drawn from nature's own wisdom. Another disciple spoke hesitantly. Master, does mindfulness mean ignoring the future entirely or neglecting preparation for what might come? Buddha turned to him with a gentle expression, his voice steady as a mountain. No, my disciple, mindfulness does not ignore. To act mindfully is to prepare with clarity, attending to what lies within your control without attachment to outcomes, Buddha clarified. The future is but a seed that has yet to sprout, and the past a withered leaf that has fallen. Only the present is alive, vibrant, like the lotus blooming in the pond. Untethered by what was or will be, the disciple bowed his head, his earlier doubts dissipating under the weight of Buddha's wisdom and natural metaphors. As the sun climbed higher, casting a warm glow across the gathering, Buddha stood, his presence unwavering like the mountains. Fear is like a shadow, my disciples. It disappears when you embrace the light of presence and understanding, Buddha said. Do not chase the shadow nor flee from it. Simply turn your gaze to the light, and the shadow will vanish. Ananda listened deeply, his heart alight with newfound resolve, knowing his mind could rise above the fears clouding his peace. Buddha placed his hand gently on Ananda's shoulder, his touch grounding and filled with compassion. You hold the key to freedom, like the lotus. You must rise above distractions, holding on to nothing but the moment, where life unfolds in its fullness. The disciples sat in silence, their minds echoing Buddha's words, each finding their own connection to the teachings of mindfulness. Buddha stood by the water's edge, gazing into the horizon, his presence embodying the harmony he wished to impart. This path is not easy, my disciples, but the rewards are boundless. The freedom to live without fear or attachment. May you each become like the lotus, blooming where you are, unburdened by what was or what might be. And so, beneath the wide skies and amidst the serene pond, Buddha's teachings sank deeply into their hearts and minds. The disciples rose, feeling lighter and more present, ready to walk the path illuminated by Buddha's wisdom and compassion. Buddha turned, his gaze filled with quiet joy, his presence radiating peace as another day unfolded into the rhythm of life. Thank you for watching. Buddha's teachings are always with you. Subscribe to our channel and we will see you in the next video.